Welcome to the W.T.F, Where's the Focus podcast. I'm going to bring you a weekly short message on where you put your focus as it relates to sales and building successful business relationships. Knowing where your focus goes, your energy flows. I'm Daniel Manginelli, the author of the books Wake Up, Jumpstart the Life You've Always Had in Mind, and Shake It Up, Big Dreams and Bold Choices on the Road to Success. A national speaker on staying motivated and inspired with the right mindset and coach top salespeople around the nation. So let's get going with WTF. Welcome back to the WTF podcast. Look at that, Jen. Some spooky music, huh? Where's your mic? Your mic's not pulled up anymore over there. I need to hear from you, you know? Thank you very much. It's Halloween time, right? How about that? Things are looking up on the WTF. Through a gift from God, we've had some great guests. How about last week, huh? With Cameron Tringali? What do you think of that? You learned a lot. You did. You did. You're absolutely right. We got Boss Lady Jen on the board. Nothing? Not today. Not feeling okay. Big E producing this thing. Not easy. With me making up words and changing my voice and saying, okay, can we edit that? How about that? You know, each week followed by him saying, you're killing me, Smalls. It's Halloween month. It's Halloween month. What do you, trick or treat?
I mean, I don't trick or treat.
Oh, come on.
I do dress up.
You do dress up. It's like me. I'm at Halloween every week on this thing. And it's kind of fun when you watch kids on Halloween time in their costumes. And most of your younger kids like wear their costume because they got it now and they wear it every single night and every single day. And it's completely not wearable by Halloween night because, you know, it started out as a princess for Halloween and now they're wearing a sheet with two eyes cut out because there's nothing left of the princess costume. Let's not forget about the candy. How about that candy, Jen? You up to the candy?
Do I eat candy?
Well, you eat the Halloween candy.
I do.
You candy girl?
I'm guilty.
Hey, Candy Girl. You remember that? Candy Girl? You remember that song?
No.
No. Bobby Brown? No? Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike?
I might be too young.
No. You don't know New Edition?
No.
Candy? No, you don't, huh?
Can
You should subscribe and like just because of my New Edition knowledge. Right now, I want everybody to subscribe because I have New Edition knowledge. Don't cool it now, Jen. Talk to me, Mr. Telephone Man. And those are songs by New Edition. See what I did? I made it New Edition songs. You know what? How much candy you think is sold in October? Let's find that out, Jen. Let's look real quick here. Candy. Americans purchase nearly 600 million pounds of candy a year for Halloween. That's incredible. 90 million pounds of chocolate sold during Halloween week, taking a strong lead compared to other holidays. The average American consumes 3.4 pounds of Halloween candy. 3.4 pounds. Trick or treat. You're going to eat 3-4.
So unhealthy.
You're just hiding from the sense because you know what? You're going to only have, 2.6 pounds? So you'll be under the national average. A trick or treat.
No, I'm going to have 3.3.
Speaking of treats, boy, do we have one for you today. I have the great, wonderful, musicianal virtuoso, if that's even a word, and my good friend Dylan Altman. Look at there. Look at that. Kid goes wild. Originally from the great state of New Jersey, Dylan has been writing songs and performing in Nashville since around the early 90s. He has 3 #1 songs with Tim McGraw, Watch the Wind Blow By, Jake Owens' Barefoot Blue Jean Night, and Jason Aldean's Take a Little Ride. Other artists that he's recorded Altman songs include Eric Presley, Chase Bryant, Joe Nichols, Eli Young Band, Gloriana, Jeanette McCarty, Trace Atkins, Wilt McCurdy, Trace Atkins. Well, you know, do I have to keep going? JT Hodge, The Almost, Ted Russell Camp, Jonathan Jackson. Can I stop now, Dylan?
You can stop.
Okay, gotcha. He's a supporter and volunteer of musicians. You're like, no, keep going. There's bunches more. Trust me, there's lots and lots for him. He's an avid supporter and volunteer for Musicians on Call, an organization that provides live music and patients in area hospitals. Co-hosts an annual benefit of JDRF, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, with good friend and frequent collaborator, EMI Nashville recording artist Eric Presley. And one of his proudest accomplishments is his beautiful, which I agree, beautiful daughter Isabella, who serves as his greatest inspiration. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Dylan Altman.
All right.
Look at,
Glad to be here, man.
I went for the cheers, the big cheers. That was the stadium cheers. Yeah, I'm wearing my Dodger Mookie Betts or something. I have one. I don't know.
Are you a Dodgers fan?
No, not really. I ran out of jerseys to wear. I wear usually Kobe jerseys, but I'm pretty much plumb out of it. You know, if anybody would like to sponsor and send me your favorite sports team, I would do this. So Dylan, let's get right into it a little bit. When did you start writing music? Because I just went through all your accolades. When did you start?
Well, I mean, I started more as a, because I was in bands. I mean, I started off playing guitar. So I always had viewed myself as a musician first when I was a kid. I was 13 and then I was in bands, and it was just kind of the thing you did. I mean, I knew that Eddie Van Halen wrote songs, but he didn't sing. So I kind of loved Eddie Van Halen. I started doing that. The singers in my bands growing up were just terrible. So I became the singer by default. And then I remember the first time I wrote a couple really crappy songs when I was like 15 and 16.
Well, they can't all be imagined. That's what.
They were crappy. You have to kind of learn to fall before you can walk, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, and what happened is the first time I wrote something, my dad's a musician. My dad's a composer, jazz pianist, teacher, and everything. And I always have so much respect for him. First time I ever wrote a song that he responded to with like genuine enthusiasm and said, "Man, that's great," was I was 19. I just gone to Berklee College of Music. It was my first year. Right. Came back that summer, played it for him. And that kind of got the bug going, man, because I wrote the lyrics and melody and music to all that, and then started writing more and more, and just kind of evolved from there.
How did you realize, was it your dad, or when did it become like, hey, I'm pretty good at writing music? Like, I'm pretty good. Not only you're a great guitar player, I've watched you many, many times, and you're a fabulous singer, by the way. Yeah. But at what point did you kind of say, like, I'm pretty good at writing music too?
I would say when I came down to Nashville, because, I wrote songs for my band up in Boston when I was in school up there, but they were kind of more jam band type songs. So, and it's funny because I grew up, with tons of music in my family. My dad, I said, a jazz musician, but he and my mom listened to all the great. I remember growing up, to this date, my favorite albums are from 8 tracks I listened to in our old Volare, our Plymouth Volare, the family car. I used to listen to Abbey Road from the Beatles,
right,
After the Gold Rush by Neil Young, and Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder. Those 3 are still my most influential favorite albums, or 8 tracks as they were back then.
Wow.
And it's just because it's about songs. So I think that once I got out of the just jam band thing, I just started loving songs and songwriting, and I've been a huge Beatles fan, so it kind of came naturally from there once I developed the skill, because once you get better at something, you really want to do it more and more.
And that's what I'm getting. When you realize you're pretty good at it, there's this realization that you want to do it more and more. So when you're talking about inspirations, what is the inspiration on? You're talking, I can little lamb. What is it? Mary had a little lamb. I could probably do that, but on inspirations, where does it start? Does it start with a guitar lick, or does it start with on the piano, or?
It varies. It depends. I mean, there's some people I've written with over the years who are just straight lyricists, and there's some who are just music people. But since I come from both sides, it's, when I was an artist originally, I was a solo artist after I was in a band. Mm-hmm. And that's when I had my first pub deal in Nashville. So the way I wrote back then, since I basically wrote by myself, was whenever the inspiration came. So I'd pick up my guitar and I'd feel something and I'd write it.
Where would the inspiration come from? Was it something that happened in the day, your life, or just with things popping
back then? It was really kind of music driven. Everything for me back then always started from a musical idea, and then I wrote lyrics to fit the melodies and stuff I had. It wasn't until I started writing regularly in Nashville with other co-writers, and started doing that with another writer or 2 writers, that I really developed a multi-dimensional skill set where sometimes I would write a song off of the lyric. Sometimes I'd come in with a title. Sometimes I'd just have an idea. And sometimes still I would come up with a musical thing. And it really varied on who I was working with that day, and you know,
and
sometimes it just,
where it goes. So when you take that and go to the business aspect of, you know, what do you do after you write a song? Do you just walk over to Jason Aldean's store and knock on it and basically say, "Hey, I have your next hit song"? I mean, what happens?
yeah. No, it's a good question. So like, 'cause
Right.
most people don't know how it works with that. So the way it's worked for me all these years is I've had a publishing deal in town in Nashville. So
Okay.
what that means is they pay me to write songs. It's a draw. It's again, it's recoupable from royalties. So you write a song, and if it's really good, the people, your song plugger, your publisher, they then want you to do a demo of it. So a demo being not just a simple guitar vocal, something that basically will present it to the artist as close to as it would sound as a record. It would sound like a really good version of it. It's not the great finished product,
Right.
but you have something really good. So it doesn't require a lot of imagination at that point.
So from that
So
point, after you write it, do you have the artist in mind, or you're just writing a song and then they pick the publisher?
that too is a good question. I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, when I wrote my number one song for Jason Aldean,
Right.
when we wrote it, when it was done, it was just so undeniably something that had to go to him.
Okay.
And luckily, one of my co-writers, Rodney Clausen, on that had several Jason Aldean hits. So he had a direct route to him. So I could have had it gone through my publisher and song
Oh,
plugger.
got it.
But with you always, if you can take out the middleman in these situations,
Right.
it's always ideal. So Rodney was able to get it straight to him, and they loved it, him and his producer, and they cut it.
So
But the other ones were like Watch the Wind Blow By and Barefoot Blues Unite were just songs that I thought were great. Like when I was done with them, I thought they were great, but I didn't have a specific artist in mind.
did you have songs that you thought were great that someone else did, like, this is a hit, and then just like, nope, it's not?
Yeah, and both sides of it. Like when I played for my publishers, Watch the Wind Blow By, which was the
Right.
number one for McGraw, they liked it. They didn't love it. They were like, it's okay. But I believed in that.
You could
And
do
I
better.
played it.
Go back in there and do something.
I know. So I played it for my family and friends. Everybody else seemed to like it too, and it found a home that way. But there have been times where I've written something and I think it's a smash hit, and then either, you know, both sides can play out.
Right.
It's so subjective, this business.
Right.
It's so opinion driven that you just don't know what's gonna.
Was there a time, and I know kind of the answer because we're all like that, right? That you question your abilities because you have these highs that are highs, and then you have these lows, like, I believe this and this, and I believe in that. Was there a time that you just questioned, like, you know, what am I doing? I'm a songwriter, and was there a gap of time that songs didn't get picked up?
Yeah, or I mean, when did I have doubts? I mean, yesterday, or and the day before, I had full confidence. You know, the thing with doing these creative endeavors is you just don't know. It's so when the muse is going to hit, so to speak.
Right.
So there are days, but what happens is when you do it as long as I've done it, you learn. You become. I love using sports references. You become like a crafty lefty in baseball parlance.
Yeah.
You're someone who okay, your fastball's not there today. So what do I got? My slider's working pretty good, or I can do that. Like you learn how to make it work. Because there are days I walk in and I have no idea, and I should have an idea, but like, because I'm writing with someone important, I need to get this thing. But what I do is I know how to lean on someone else's idea. I know how to bring whatever strength I'm feeling that day. I might be weak musically that day, but for whatever reason, the lyrics are flowing out of me, or vice versa.
Right. So early on, before you got the publishing deal, how many no's or not interested did you get before you got someone to pick it up where you had that deal? Was there a lot?
Well, I didn't have a bunch.
Were you just playing?
I didn't have a bunch with the writer side. What it was is I was in a band and we were trying to get a record deal, and we got a bunch of no's with that, and that was really frustrating. But what happened is I met a guy named Daniel Hill through a friend. He was a publisher at a company called Cal 4 Entertainment, and he showed interest in my songs and my band. And then my band broke up, and he maintained that interest in what I did. And then he ended up signing me, And we had first tried to get me a rock record deal out of Nashville, which was a little difficult at that time because in the early 2000s, it was really viewed as a just solely a country music town.
Right.
But then, you know, what happened is I had written that Tim McGraw song with this guy, Anders Osborne. And when that became a hit, by that point, I was 33. I was married. I had a daughter who was 3 years old. And I suddenly had this nice amount of money coming in. And I realized that I just didn't want to be out on the road chasing that. I wanted to be home with my family, and writing songs allowed me an outlet for that.
So you just pivoted. And I think in life we do
Yeah.
that, right? You take something that you could be dreaming, this could be what you're going for, but what it ends up happening is something better, especially if the time you had from there. And we focus so much on kind of what can go wrong in our heads, right? I mean, our heads play crazy tricks on us, and, you know, those uncomfortable conversations, the unknown calls in business that, you know, we play out a scenario in our mind that usually doesn't end up, you know, it doesn't end up in our mind with us winning. It ends up in our mind with the person saying no on the other end, go take a hike. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You don't look the part, all those kind of things. And it's, you know, that's what you have to come over. And it sounds wonderfully on your sobriety you're talking about, that it gives you the ability to do that it's not a personal attack on you.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, it's funny because I'm in sobriety, we talk about that all the time. It's that when I was drinking, every situation, every problem was the worst case scenario.
Right.
You know, whereas now I don't look at it like that.
Right.
I go into every episode, every scenario I'm in, whether it's a co-write or a gig or an operation or a date with some woman, you know, which I'm open for, you know, something like that. Anytime I go into
And
something
this
like
isn't
that,
Tinder, by the way. I'm not pimping you out. I mean, it's okay. There's no swiping on my.
I was told you're the love doctor. Is that not the case? No, but so what happens is I go into it now with a much more, you know,
right.
I say a prayer and go into it, and whatever it's going to be will be. I mean, I know that if I do what I'm supposed to do, good things will happen. It might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen now. I just feel like as long as I stay on the path and do the next right thing, I should be all right.
I'm a firm believer that, you know, luck is when talent just kind of meets the opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
You get the opportunity and you get to display it. And there's so many that pass on opportunities, right? You could have said a bunch of times that, no, that's just not the way I want to go or whatever it is. And they don't know that, you know, it's just a chance to display their talent, and you have a talent and you could have passed on opportunities you didn't. And a lot of people say, man, I just got lucky with this big break. And I don't think so. I think it's just when the talent meets the opportunity that happens, because our life, the best relationships we have in our life is someone we didn't know at one time. And that's what gets past that fear of a lot of things. I didn't know my wife at one time. I didn't know my best friend at one time, right? So your best relationships is someone at one time you didn't know. And that's why, you know, a lot of people would say, luck, I don't believe. I believe that your talent put you to meet the opportunities you had.
Yeah, well, you know, it's an interesting question about that, because I've always felt that, yeah, I don't just believe in just luck as it is, but I believe it's hard work and opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like there's an old line, it's attributed often to Woody Allen, where it's like 90% of success is showing up.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you show up, I put myself in a position to have success by showing up. Like all those years when I had my best success, I was showing up every day, like 5 days a week.
Right.
And it becomes a numbers game. And if you can take those rejections, which are so prevalent in the music business, I mean, we get them all the time.
Right.
You get far more no's than yes. I've had a good career. I've had 3 number ones, tons of cuts, a top 10, other stuff. But I've had written over 1,000 songs. So that when you look at that percentage, it's like, it's madness.
I think that's what happens. Like, it's overnight success. Dylan Altman have been writing 1,000 songs. Yeah.
But you know,
I think people don't realize that. You said something there that you don't realize it's going to have to, the grind to get through those, to get to the prize. You just can't stop, and showing up is a big part. And, you know, that action creates the timing. I've said this, and I've written this multiple times, that, you know, the actions you take create the timing. Things do happen for a reason, but if you don't take the action to be there, to show up, the timing's never going to find you.
Yeah, it's never going to find you.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So with that, right, you're connecting with them, and that's what you enjoyed. Do you consider yourself in kind of sales? Are you selling yourself in any way to them, or do you the word sales is just bad for a lot of people because they just think I'm selling you something you didn't want. I'm giving you something you didn't want. But do you consider yourself in that you're selling yourself to people to know who you are, or selling yourself or your songs? Do you consider that?
I mean, that's a very good question. And I know what you're saying. Like, I would have an aversion to say, I'm like, I'm not in sales, but
Right.
all of us are essentially in sales.
That's
Like,
what I'm getting at.
when I
That's where the
met my
whole
wife, I
podcast-
was in
yeah.
ex-wife. I was in sales. I
No.
was selling myself, even if I didn't realize it.
I got to
you
sell
know,
myself to my kids, my wife, my employees. I mean, geez,
I've
my
sold
dog, my new
myself to all
dog.
my
I got to sell
friends.
myself to my new
Yeah.
dog. They're like, why are you liking someone else besides me? Come here, I'll give you treats. No,
Yeah.
you're right. Everybody is in sales. They just don't like the word sales, right? I mean,
Yeah, and okay, so just to go on that, so what is it? So like our mutual friend Marshall Altman sent me out to write with a band that's on his label in July, this past July.
Okay.
Well, I believe he believes in me, so he sent me out there. But there's no guarantee we're going to write anything good.
Right.
I believe in myself, so I was willing to go out there. But I still had to sell myself.
Right.
If I had walked into there with them and had nothing, and we came up with nothing during the week, guess what? They would not only would they never ask me back again,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Marshall probably wouldn't book me again,
Right.
and I would feel crappy about myself. But because I went out there with the idea that, okay, this is an opportunity.
Right.
So not a pressure thing. Again, this is where the sobriety takes away the pressure part. Because literally, and I'm not a religious person, it's more of a spiritual thing. I just put a prayer out to the universe to just that I'm going to be authentic.
So
to me, I feel like I am at my best if I'm my authentic self, whether I'm performing for a crowd, writing with someone, or talking to Dan Manginelli.
Yeah, I agree. So just go on that. So prior to sobriety, what would it be? Would it be that you would have to drink to go do those? Or would it be something where you would have so much self-doubt that you would almost talk yourself out of going?
It would vary day to day, man. And the alcoholism got to its worst the last summer. Last summer was the first time ever that I was drinking during the day regularly because of anxiety. But it varied. So some days when I was really drinking and I was I would show up and I was almost never drunk at a co-write during the day.
Right.
But sometimes my anxiety from being an alcoholic would get my confidence in the down in the tubes, and some days I would feel on top of the world.
Right.
Now, I felt enough confidence in myself and what I do that I always could go dip into that well. I always knew that I had talent. So I had pretty good confidence with that. But now it's much different because I'm more accepting of the fact that, look, I think I do have a lot of talent, but that doesn't mean I still can't walk in a room with someone and we just not get a great song.
Right.
But I'm okay with that now in a way I didn't used to. Because you don't always get something good.
No, yeah. I've had some really great athletes on the podcast. I've had some, other people that were there, and I talk about a little bit each one of them when the roar of the crowd and the spotlight is on you, and performing is what you just said, is you love that feeling of performance, right? The question I have is when the silence is there and it's all done, and you go from this energy of performing on stage to this high level to all of a sudden driving home. How you handle that? Because that's a big step from being this huge high to, okay, now it's me in my car, right?
It's another good question. Okay, I can tell you this. When I was drinking all the time, I had a regular gig with my blues band twice a month. And I tell people now that at my darkest, those 2 hours of a gig on those 2 nights a week, they were the only time of the month I was happy. So the gig would end and I'd just be miserable.
Yeah.
Now it's more balanced. But I can tell you this, that high I feel when I get off, when I'm done performing, now I carry it with me. I carry it with me as kind of something to spur me towards the next one and just to keep me moving. Like one thing I learned from my dad, my dad, aside from being a great musician and composer, my dad is just he's a badass. He's 78 years old, and he runs 2 to 3 miles a day for years. He hikes, he plays tennis, he does all this stuff. But what he does more than anything is he never stops working. Like he's always making music, and he always made music and composed music even during the darkest times. Like when my brothers were sick growing up and stuff, that's when my dad wrote. When my brother died, that's when he wrote. It's like he keeps working. And I think that that is something that was a great lesson for me. And that, you know, I was able to work and achieve my greatest success during my darkest times after my divorce.
So when you first started doing this or taking it to the next level, what is the biggest obstacle you think you had to overcome to get to the hump when you first started? Was it being able to talk? Obviously you could talk to people, so it wasn't that, or getting your stuff out. What was it? What did you have to overcome when you started?
Like started like, you mean like professionally in town as a writer?
Professionally as a writer or performer, was there obstacles that you had to overcome to get into wherever you were going to play, or do people?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think part of that is that's where it goes to the selling part we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so when I was Dylan Altman walking into a room with no hits, and someone, you know, because you always want to, I'm sure it's the same way with business or something, you always want to write at your level or above. You don't want to write at your level or below. So when I would be in a room where it was someone who's had more success than me, I didn't want to suck that day. Or if I did suck, like if I felt it wasn't there, I would have to at least sell myself and you know, like where they'd be like, okay, you know what? His plugger would say, how did it go with Dylan Altman today? It's like, oh, we didn't get one, but yeah, it was a great hang. Book it again. Because that's how it works, man. It's like, well, it's so relationship driven. And it's like, I think that's one thing that even in the darkest times of my drinking, I was always someone who people liked and people got along with.
I just want to make sure, I want to circle back. If no one got that, write that down. You want to perform to your level or above, to push yourself there, because anybody can go below their level.
Yeah.
It sound like, and it kind of goes out with the people you surround yourself with, right? Most people surround themselves with people that are below them because it makes them feel higher than them, instead of reaching out and wanting to be around people that are better than you. Except our ego doesn't allow that, right? Our ego says, no, you can't. You want to be the best of your group rather than look at someone and go, that's who I want to be. And then be that person. Go, no, that other person is who I yearn to follow and do, because we all want to be striving to go to the next level, as you just said, which is huge. It's your level and above is a great point. Right.
I mean, I'm very lucky. I got a lot of wonderful friends in my life, very close friends, and all of them are really, really smart, man.
Gotcha.
Smart guys and women who challenge me, who I feel like I'm at my best when I'm talking to these people.
Right.
Or, you know, I love to play with musicians, and I'm lucky I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right.
When I play with musicians in this town, I play with some of the best in this town, which means they're some of the best in the world.
Right.
And the same thing when I write with the best writers in Nashville are some of the best in the world.
Right.
And it makes me, like I said, it makes me raise my level up. But one of the main components, because you were talking about ego, look, I have an ego like anyone else who's successful and really does something. But I have always, even when I was drinking, retained a level of humility that now, because I'm sober, is really high. It's like I never think I invented the wheel. And it's been proven over years. I mean, I'll go into a room and write with a young artist, and sometimes they don't know what they're doing. They're terrible. And sometimes they've had no success, but they have a great idea that day. And I come in with an idea too, but I'll be thinking to myself, well, shit, I want to write that idea because it's just better. I'm going to ride with that kid because it's better. Because that's the goal, man. I can tell you this, when I'm writing, and this is where the humility comes in, my goal is to write the best song of that day, whatever's the best song. So I don't have to drive it. I don't have to be the main guy in the melody or the lyric or anything. I just want to be a part of something special.
That's awesome. Where can we come watch you perform next? I know you have some stuff online and you're playing a bunch of gigs next. Do you know where you got them on tap real quick?
Mainly in town. I could do stuff here in Nashville, play at a blues club, a club in town called Cabana Taps. I do that this Thursday. I don't know if this is live. This will come out. This will come out probably after next Tuesday, but that's okay. Yeah. So I just play around town in Nashville, but I do out of town stuff too. Like I'm doing Marshall and I and Bryce Long are playing a songwriter show in Charleston, South Carolina on October 9th. I'm not sure the venue, unfortunately. Yeah, I just do a lot of stuff in and out of town. And it's going to speed up in the new year because with my hand improving, and I'm going to make a
Right.
record with Marshall as my producer.
Right.
So yeah, man, just staying at it.
I think we met prior to Sundance, didn't we? When we went to Sundance with Amy.
I know I thought Sundance was the time we met.
We met when you did
About
the
8 years ago.
songwriters. Oh gosh, again, you're getting old. I'm not getting old. It's
Yeah.
just my hairline's getting a little older. That's about it. Yeah. And that's where you found out my nickname at that time that Marshall broke out to you.
Pickles. I think I gave you the nickname. I mean,
You
he
gave
said
me-
that you.
No,
He said you were
he gave me
eating.
the story and you called me Mr. Pickles. There's no.
Yeah, he told you this. He told me the story, and I just started calling you Pickles, and
Yes.
it stuck. Marshall will say, "Dude, Pickles wants you to do his podcast."
Do you remember why? I mean, do you know the reason he called me Pickles? Do you
Yeah,
remember the
because
story?
you were like either trying to lose weight or something, and you were eating pickles all the time. And when he said you were eating pickles all the time, like all day long, you were eating pickles because pickles are in many ways a perfect food. There's no fat in them. There's no carbs, no nothing. And because it's in a brine, there's some flavor because of the salt and probably sugar there. And you were just eating pickles all the time.
He came in and I looked like someone put a straw in my mouth and blew me up from the sodium. I went 2 straight weeks of eating pickle spears, man. I thought I had it down. I'm killing it, man. There's no calories, like 2 calories in a pickle, and I'm just gonna eat pickles. It was my pickle diet. The problem is with me, Dylan, is I got this love-hate relationship with food that I love to eat it. And I just, that's the love part. The hate part is it's not very kind to me. I don't have that
Marshall told me
metabolism
that today. We were
yeah.
talking, and he was saying, because anyone who's looking at you right now knows you're fit, you're a healthy guy. He said you should have seen Pickles in high school. He's pretty big back then.
Well, I mean, we're playing football. That's when chicks dig me and guys wanted to be me. That was the days, man. Tell you what, that's a Mr. Pickles, Mr. Pickles, Mr. Pickles. Well, that's an analogy for a whole something else. But Mr. Pickles was killing it back then, right? Jeez,
it's a good porn name, Mr. Pickles.
We just derailed this whole podcast right there with my Pickles my comment. I don't want to keep this talent from writing and rehearsing and getting out and singing some blues. Everybody, the great, the wonderful Dylan Altman.
Thank you, brother. I look forward to seeing you
man.
soon, man.
I'll see you soon. I think we're heading out to Nashville as soon as we can to come see you guys. I'm
awesome.
looking forward to it. Yeah. So send me your questions and your comments. If you want stuff and talk to Dylan, please just go down there and put the comments in. We'd love your feedback. And Dylan will take requests to sing at your next toddler party, your cocktail night, or your neighborhood cul-de-sac gathering. So if you got something going on the cul-de-sac of your things, you could book Dylan and he'll be right out there for you. Correct? Yeah? No?
That's right.
Email me.
Playing cul-de-sacs. Am I still here? Am I still on?
You're still on. It's okay. I just figured I'd get you for toddler parties, right? Get a 3-year-old, you can sing something.
I told you the vaudeville thing. I'll do whatever I got to do.
Whatever I got. Trust me, I'm in the same, man. I'll outwork you. That's about it. Email me your stories to dan@manginelligroup.com. To be a guest on the W.T.F, hit me up. Until next week, have fun and make dreams come true.